Hi there, I'm Melainie Rogers, and this is the wonderful
Jennifer Solis.
And we're here to talk about motherhood and recovery. And our topic today is about body image. This is a big one. It was a big one for us. Specifically, what we want to talk about is what it feels like for two women who've gone through an eating disorder and gone through our own recovery to then go through pregnancy and have all of those changes to our bodies as we went through those pregnancies and obviously post-delivery. So, I was talking to Jen about this, and I felt very solid going into my pregnancy that my eating disorder wasn't going to be a part of that pregnancy. However, I also know enough about an eating disorder to know to never underestimate it. So what I actually did when I was trying to get pregnant and then found out I was pregnant is I spoke to my support team and I talked to them very honestly about the fact that we need to look out for any red flags that might come up during pregnancy around the body image, the shifts in weight, etc., that might be indicators that the eating disorder is kind of coming back out, if you will. And I got to tell you, I was so relieved. I was pretty confident, but I didn't underestimate the eating disorder. I was relieved that I got through my pregnancy anyway, being pretty neutral. I would say very neutral actually, and very just like, I'm just going to trust my body. It knows what it's doing, because I certainly don't know how to make a baby. My body's doing this for me. So just get out of the way and let your body go through this beautiful natural process. So that was how I approached it. There are a couple of snafus though that I wanted to share with you, and one of them was in my first trimester. And for anyone who's gone through a pregnancy, the books will tell you that you don't generally gain a lot of weight during the first trimester. It's usually the second and the third. And I gained 12 pounds during my first trimester. And I was just responding to hunger and fullness. And I went to my OBGYN for my checkup, and she said, oh boy, this could be a problem. We need to watch this. And I remember thinking, thank God I am fully recovered from my eating disorder, because if you told me that and I was still in my eating disorder, I would freak out. But I knew that I was just honoring my hunger. I was eating when I was hungry. I was eating whatever I was craving, a lot of hot, spicy, pickled stuff. And so I was able to let it go. But it was so noteworthy to me, Jen, because I thought, you know what, if you're a woman and A, you don't know a lot about this process, and B, if you're in your own eating disorder, that could really, really mess with your mind. So that was just one example of where kind of the medical field and the expectations and the standard scales and such that they have can throw you for a little bit of a spin. Yeah. What about your experience, Jen?
Yeah. So in my first pregnancy, I was in love with being pregnant. Actually, I loved it.
Really?
I did. I loved being pregnant. And I remember it was really the first time that I felt like my body just had this divine purpose.
Wow.
And so I was very much in that place of respecting my body and embraced it. Now, that's not to say I didn't have my freak out moments about gaining weight or clothes not fitting anymore. Of course I did. But the bigger picture of what my body was doing really helped to pull me through. With my second pregnancy, it was different because my daughter was 2 and now I was pregnant. I was finally just getting full nights of rest. I was finally just starting to kind of get settled into this new life, and now I'm pregnant again. That was very challenging. So the overwhelm that I felt mentally and emotionally made the weight that I was gaining feel really, really, really heavy.
Wow.
So I didn't tolerate that weight gain as well as I did the first one. And I can honestly say, and I feel comfortable sharing it today, that I literally believe that within hours of my second daughter being born, that need to just lose weight came on so strong.
Wow.
Came on so strong. And so as soon as I was cleared, I was out walking with my girls. I would have one strapped to my chest, the other in a stroller. I'd find the hilliest, hardest routes. We'd go out a couple hours at a time, sometimes more than once a day. And I remember I just had this kind of refrain going in my head of, oh, I'll just have a low grade eating disorder just to get me through this baby weight bullshit. Right?
Yeah.
Well, that spiraled way out of control. There was nothing low grade about it. But a lot of gifts have come out of that. One of those being able to sit here today with Melainie and share my experience and assure you that, yeah, it is really uncomfortable. It can be really uncomfortable gaining weight and dealing with the changes that come from your body. I mean, I remember in our discussion you were sharing like that even your shoe size changed.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, it did. I went up one whole shoe size.
Yes. So all of a sudden we don't recognize ourselves, right? We look in the mirror and we see these big bags from exhaustion.
Yeah.
Our bodies have changed. Our boobs hurt. Like,
yeah.
It can be extremely challenging to hold your ground in your recovery during this time. And if that's something that you're dealing with or are thinking about getting pregnant and have some concerns about weight gain, I think what Melainie shared about tapping into your support team and just being really honest about where you are and what you're experiencing is going to set you up for the best possible chance at, staying solid in your recovery and being able to devote your energy to growing your baby, caring for your baby.
Absolutely, Jen. And I'm so sorry you went through that experience, but it's not surprising, and in fact I'm surprised that most women who have had an eating disorder don't go through a relapse, because it's scary stuff. I think for me what helped me get there is just truly relinquishing all control of my body to this experience that I did really feel was miraculous. I had my little book, and every week they tell you what size the fetus is or the baby, and they compare it to a piece of fruit. So it starts off as big as a raisin, and then it's a mango, and then it's and it's actually I loved all that process. But as far as the body image piece, yes, growing the baby, your weight's going up. I just went out and just bought new maternity clothes, or actually I just bought big baggy clothes very, very quickly on, because I just didn't want to have to be dealing with tight waistbands and feeling uncomfortable or whatever. And also what I did after I had my baby is I mentally said to myself, it's taken 9 to 10 months to get here to have this baby. I'm going to give my body 9 to 10 months, a year, to get back to whatever it deems is going to be my natural weight post baby. And I got to tell you guys, again, having gone through recovery, that was a big deal to have to then say yet again in my life, I'm going to somehow figure out a way to be okay with wherever my body ends up after this year with having a child. Because again, I'm really giving my body over to genetics and however your body changes when you have a child, because actually it does. So that was a pretty big deal. And what I said to Jen is immediately after I had my baby, or a couple of weeks later, because I was still wearing all my maternity clothes, I then just went and bought some new clothes as my weight was kind of trending back to where it used to be. I just bought some new clothes to get me through that first year. And I also had to buy new shoes, which wasn't that bad because I had to throw all my other shoes out, which was sad actually. But see, that's one example. I never imagined that I would have you go up one whole shoe size. The crazy things that happen to your body. But again, I think what we're talking about today is it's a really big change. It can trigger a lot of stuff, and we live in a society that is just absolutely obsessed with thinness. And if you're pregnant, you're still expected to be thin in your pregnancy. And we also, you know, read People magazine, and our celebrity mums out there get their, you know, pre-baby body back in 6 weeks, for goodness sakes, you know. So we are certainly, we live in this culture, so we're going to feel the pressures, even if we intellectually don't agree with them. So those are just some, I think, some very important thoughts that I think what helped me get through my pregnancy. Now, granted, Jen, I only had one. If I'd gone through another with the overwhelm you were feeling, I can see how the risk of relapse would be so huge. But I was very deliberate in my first pregnancy to set up my team, to set up my own expectations of my body changing, and putting myself in a headspace to be okay with that, so that, again, the whole goal was to prevent a relapse of my eating disorder during this time. So I would encourage viewers out there to give it some thought. Don't underestimate an eating disorder, and certainly if there's going to be one time in your life where you're going to be under some of the most enormous pressure I've ever felt in my life, it's going to be being a mum, becoming a mum. And in Jen's case, the second time round was even harder. So, you know, take care of yourself, guys. Have a plan in place, and then if you don't need it, that's great. But be very, very gentle with yourself, and I think have realistic expectations around what our bodies can do. I mean, we've just given birth to this little human being, for goodness sakes. Who gives a shit what the number on the scale is, quite frankly?
Exactly.
So anyway, we hope you get something out of that, and we'll see you again soon.